The MLB trade deadline is tomorrow, Tuesday, August 1st at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So today's show is going to recap all of the trade rumors out there and touch on some of the big names that could be on the move. Now, before we get into our first story, I want to hear from everyone watching right now. Name a player you want your team to either trade away, whether you want to be a seller, or if you're a buyer, someone you'd like to see your team trade for. The reason why I ask this is because we will be live for the MLB trade deadline here at Chat Sports. So you might see your favorite player be on the move or your favorite team acquire a star player to push them over the hump this October. The first story, though, we are going to talk about is over in Chicago with Cody Bellinger staying with the Cubs. This has been a very fluid situation on the north side, but the report is the Cubs are telling teams they are not interested in trading Bellinger. The Cubs had been flirting with getting back to 500. An 8-game win streak, which collapsed yesterday against the Cardinals, has pushed them over 500 and has them back in the mix. And the Cubs want to stay in the mix, and they do not want to move on from Bellinger, who has been a star player for them this season. He signed a one-year, $17.5 million sort of prove-it-year contract with Chicago, and he has been a big-time winner. And he's looking to cash in, whether it's this offseason or an extension. But the Cubs have been flirting with some trade speculation as they are right now on the outside looking in for the playoff picture, but it's not a very good division in the NL Central, and we'll look at that closer. And Bellinger, well, he has been the hottest player, in my opinion, so far this month. I mean, you look at what he's done so far this season altogether, a 0.902 OPS, 15 home runs, 46 ribbies. But this month in July, he's batting over 400, 8 home runs, which is tied for the second most in the majors, 24 RBIs, and has been limited to just 9 strikeouts. So Bellinger is definitely a piece that a lot of teams would have a lot of interest in, and the Cubs could get a lot for. But right now, Chicago is looking at the NL Central, and they are in third, but it's a pretty weak division, right? The Reds are sitting at the top with a mark of 58 and 49. Meanwhile, the Cubs are just 4 games back of the division, and in the wild card race, they're 3.5 games back, right? They've got the Diamondbacks and the Phillies sitting ahead of them, but the Giants, Marlins, and Brewers are taking the 3 wild card spots at the moment. So if the Cubs think they could pull off a 2021 Braves-esque run, or even just last year like the Phillies, who fired their manager a month or two into the season and ended up going all the way to the World Series, it's a good time to get hot right now, and the Cubs could be buyers instead of sellers and try and build around Bellinger and make him one of their cornerstone pieces for the next 5 or 6 years if they lock him up to a major extension. But what do you guys think the Cubbies should do? Buy or sell? Right now, I think they're kind of good to stay put. I don't think they should be overly aggressive. They're still on the outside looking in. You don't want to make a lot of moves and still fall short. Maybe they can sell Stroman and try and get a prospect or two, kind of like what you saw happen with the Rangers and the Mets, where you still get a pretty good prospect for Scherzer. I mean, Stroman's not Scherzer, but he's been really good this season, so you might be able to catch an extra arm down in the minor leagues. Second story I want to talk about today is in Boston, with the Red Sox potentially dealing some of their outfielders. It's a tough year to be a Red Sox fan because they've been a pretty darn good baseball team, all things considered, but the AL East is just an absolute gauntlet of a division. Now, the report is that the Red Sox are open to listening to offers for their outfielder, Alex Verdugo. Now, he had a really good month of June. You can see his slashing numbers, 316 batting average, 484 slugging, really solid on base of 377. But the month of July has not been kind. He's batting 145. His slugging is down to 246, and his on-base percentage has also plummeted down to 231. Now, the Red Sox are in a tough spot because, like I said, they're likely not going to win the AL East with the Orioles, and we thought I'd be saying that right now, running away with the division, and even the Rays can't win the division with a 64-win total, but they only are 2.5 games back of the Blue Jays for that third and final wild card spot. I personally think it'd be a good time for the Red Sox to sell high on Verdugo. Maybe they could sneak into the postseason, but the AL looks so tough this season. You never quite know. If you get hot at the right time, you could go on a run. But you saw what he did in the month of June versus what he did in the month of July. So if you can pick up a good player or two and maybe kind of focus on 2024, this could be a good time to sell high if you are Boston. We'll talk more about their outfielders, by the way, later on in the show. But join our clubhouse here at Chat Sports. We will be live for the MLB trade deadline. So if you want to see what your team does or doesn't do at the deadline, make sure you tune in for our live coverage here. Plus, we don't just cover Major League Baseball. The bread and butter of Chat Sports is the NFL, the NBA, college football, and anything with the ball under the sun. Plus, we also have interactive content. So if you are looking to be a part of a YouTube community that gives back and gets you guys on screen like live mailbags and things like that, this is the channel for you. Third big story we're going to cover on today's show, Justin Verlander. Is he a Dodger? Well, the word on the street is that the Dodgers are very interested in the multiple Cy Young winner, Justin Verlander. The Mets are rumored to be open to dealing Verlander, and the Dodgers, like I said, have emerged as a possible trade destination. They've got a very deep farm system. In fact, it's very deep at a spot where the Mets need help at, which is pitching, right? If you're going to trade Verlander away, you're likely kind of punting on this season, even if Steven says otherwise. I still think if you move on from Scherzer and Verlander, you're more or less lighting 2023 on fire. So if you're going to try and get ready for 2024, well, you got some good prospects out in the field for Max Scherzer. Maybe you try and rebuild that farm system at the pitching ranks. Verlander's got a 2-year, $86+ million contract, which I want to remind you guys, the Dodgers were in the Verlander sweepstakes a few months ago in free agency. Ultimately, he got more money in New York, but maybe he's ready to go from the East Coast to the West Coast, and he was meant to be a Dodger all along. This season, it has not been glamorous for Verlander, but I think the numbers are better than what the eye test tells you. He's got a 3.15 ERA. His whip is 1.14. It's not one of his better seasons for sure, but I still think if a team wants to go on a deep run in the postseason, Verlander's done that time and time again. He could be a very nice piece to pick up right before it's all said and done. Now, we're going to run through some previous trades that have already gone down to get you guys acclimated for the MLB trade deadline. So let's run through some of the notable names that have been moved. The Rangers, of course, got Max Scherzer for Ronald Acuna's younger brother, Luis Angel, and some cash consideration. So if the Mets are looking to move on from Scherzer, maybe they go all the way in and move on from Verlander as well and really get themselves prepared for 2024 and beyond. But I want to get the pulse of everyone watching right now. Are the Mets still contenders? I think even Mets fans, well, especially Mets fans, will say this season has been a ginormous disaster. You're buying wins, right? And they spent a lot of money, but they've not bought a lot of wins. So do you guys think the Mets can still hang around and try and make some moves? I don't think so. This would be a good time for them to sell and try to get something for these very expensive free agents they signed very recently. But if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Some other names that could be on the move I wanted to toss your way. Adam Duvall might be on the move out of Boston to the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies have been lingering in that wild card spot with the Braves running away with the division. Gleyber Torres, who in my opinion has been like the second best player over in the Bronx, maybe he's going down to Miami. The Marlins are having a really strong season. The Yankees are currently on the outside looking in for the postseason. I don't think this would be a move Yankees fans would be very excited about, but if, for whatever reason, New York thinks this is not their year, they could get a lot for Gleyber Torres. And then another player from the St. Louis Cardinals that could be traded, as this has been a disaster, in no other way to put it, for St. Louis. Alex Burleson, the outfielder, he could be on the market as well, as we're going to run through some previous trades that have already gone down, and you're going to see the Cardinals, they have been sellers, not buyers. But let's recap some of the trades that have gone down, starting with one that went down last night. Shout out to the Angels. They are trying to do something with Trout and Ohtani on the roster for maybe another few months, but who knows after that. They have been buyers so far, pitchers and fielders, as they got some good pieces from the Colorado Rockies. The Rangers continue to buy as well. They added more to their arms with Jordan Montgomery coming over from St. Louis. And the Cardinals, they are looking to have their first sub-500 season since 2007. So they are in unfamiliar waters right now as they are sellers at the deadline. That was not the only move St. Louis made. They also traded another pitcher, Jordan Hicks, one of the better relievers in baseball, to the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays with Romono have him on the IL, so a move made there right before the deadline. The Rangers also, like we mentioned, added Max Scherzer from the New York Mets for Ronald Acuna's younger brother, so if it's in the genes, if it's in the DNA, the Mets are going to get a really good player. Acuna, I believe, is already their number 2 prospect after this acquisition. The Dodgers continue to be buyers because what's new? It's the LA Dodgers at the MLB trade deadline. They added Lance Lynn from the Chicago White Sox and reunited with Joe Kelly as well for a bunch of players out to the south side. The Angels also bought earlier Lucas Giolito. That was kind of the big first name to be on the move, in my opinion. So that one went down a couple of days ago. Some other names that you might recognize: Noah Syndergaard. He is in Cleveland after the Dodgers traded him to the Guardians. We'll throw that on screen. Syndergaard, a righty, is off to Cleveland, like I said, to try and give them a push to get into the postseason and take over the Twins for the top of the AL Central. And then Kike Hernandez, he is back to the Dodgers in exchange for a couple of players going to the Red Sox. So Hernandez goes from the Dodgers to the Red Sox, back to the Dodgers, if I have that down correctly. So those are some of the more notable names that have been moved so far before the deadline. Once again, the trade deadline is tomorrow, Tuesday, August 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern. We will be live here at 4 p.m. Eastern, so 2 hours beforehand. So if you are looking for a spot to catch up on all things MLB trade deadline, we are your home for it. Make sure you tune in. Make sure to subscribe. That way you have a reminder and you see us live tomorrow and you don't miss out.